Hey everybody, it's Mike LaChance of the Legal Insurrection blog. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Mike's TV Lab. If you have not had a chance to do so yet, I urge you to hit the subscribe button below. And if you like this video, check out my other videos. Please rate them. Feel free to leave comments. I look forward to hearing your opinion. Jumping right in, what I want to talk to you about tonight is the kitchen sink approach that Democrats and the media are using with Trump. They're literally they've gotten to the point where they're just throwing anything they can at President Trump in an effort to take him out in November. Now, this goes back 3 years at this point. I mean, they tried everything that they could do to prevent him from getting elected in 2016. Then when he won in 2016, they invented the Russia collusion hoax, which had a two-pronged purpose. The first purpose was they were hoping that they could use it basically to reverse the results of the election. And then the second purpose, if they couldn't use it to reverse the results of the election, they figured that they could use it, they could hang it around his neck as an anvil, basically an anchor, to hamstring his presidency for 3 years. And it's astounding that he got as much accomplished in his first term as he did, despite the fact that Democrats and all of their media allies pushed this on a near daily basis. Right? Do you remember how every single time you turned on the news, even Fox News, all they were talking about was Russia, Russia, Russia for 3 years? And of course, when that started not to work anymore, when the Mueller investigation basically fell flat, then, and of course even before that fell flat, they trotted out this psychiatrist from Yale named Bandy Lee. Repeatedly, they trotted this woman out to declare Trump mentally unfit for office, and they tried, this was part of an effort to use the 25th Amendment to declare Trump mentally unfit for office, and they just trotting this woman out, Bandy Lee, every 6 months or so, and she actually addressed Democratic members of Congress. It's ridiculous, and of course she's never met Trump, so she diagnosed the president without ever having met him, which is a complete violation of her profession. It's an ethical violation of a psychiatrist to diagnose someone sight unseen. But this woman still has her job at Yale, even though she did this repeatedly, for nakedly partisan reasons. Then, of course, they tried impeachment finally, but the impeachment wasn't even over Russia. It was over Ukraine. And it came at the same time that all these revelations were coming out about Joe Biden and Ukraine. So it was almost like they used Ukraine as an excuse to impeach Trump, while at the same time providing a smokescreen to Joe Biden, because all of a sudden everyone was talking about Ukraine and Trump rather than Ukraine and Biden. So this all went on up until the pandemic began, and then all of a sudden all we talked about was COVID-19. And then we had the shutdowns, and then we had the riots, and now we're about 2 months away from the election. And having exhausted all of these different methods that they tried to get rid of Trump or delegitimize his presidency, we've now reached the point where they're just going for broke. It's every few days they're just going to come up with something new and throw something new at him. And it's gotten to the point where, we've already forgotten a couple of them, right? I mean, does everybody remember 2 or 3 weeks ago when all of the Democrats, in unison with the media, were pushing this ridiculous hoax about the post office? And you had members of the media and even Democrats in Congress tweeting photos of mailboxes on the backs of flatbed trucks, like Trump was going around the country with trucks stealing all the mailboxes. Does everybody remember that? That was just like 2 weeks ago. Okay. Then earlier this week, we had this ridiculous hit piece from The Atlantic came out claiming that Trump had insulted the troops. This is a president who, before he was even elected, made caring about American soldiers and veterans one of the cornerstones of his campaign. Then once he was elected, one of his top priorities was making sure that veterans could get the health care they need more easily, something which he actually achieved. And he genuinely cares about the troops. I mean, anybody who's followed him knows that this is something that he genuinely cares about. He genuinely cares about our men and women in uniform. So this hit piece from The Atlantic was absurd. And it's already gone. No one's talking about it anymore. No one is talking about the Atlantic piece anymore. No, because today the big news was this revelation in Bob Woodward's book. You know? And now this will be the thing for about 48 hours. And then that'll be gone, and then there will be a new thing. And then that will be gone, and then there will be a new thing, and on and on and on. And this is the way it's going to be from now until the election. And that's why I pulled up this report from Fox News, which I'd like to read a little bit of. It features Molly Hemingway, who you're probably familiar with. She's one of the founding editors of The Federalist, which is a fantastic political blog and news site. If you're not reading The Federalist, you should be. It's thefederalist.com. Check it out. It's great. And Molly Hemingway, along with her business partner, Sean Davis, the two of them have become great voices on the conservative side as sort of media critics and media watchdogs. They've done an outstanding job of breaking down what the media is doing in the age of Trump, at least what they're trying to do. So Molly made an appearance on Fox News tonight on Special Report, and then she was on later in the evening. I think she was on the Ingram angle as well. But the point that Molly makes here is excellent, so I want to read some of it to you. This again is from Fox News. Molly Hemingway says voters should prepare for supposed bombshell about Trump every couple of days. The Federalist senior editor suggests Trump could have done more to stop media-induced coronavirus panic. Well, even Molly, everyone's a Trump critic, even Molly, but you get the point. Molly's absolutely right. So let's read a little bit of this. The furor over President Trump's comments earlier this year about the coronavirus pandemic shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, the Federalist senior editor Molly Hemingway told Special Report Wednesday. I think people should be ready for this type of supposed bombshell to drop every couple of days because we're in the last couple months of an election, said Hemingway, a Fox News contributor. And people are very interested in fighting President Trump, but I'm not sure it's such a big deal. And I agree with Molly, it's not a big deal. I mean, in a nutshell, what Trump is being accused of is downplaying the danger of COVID-19 because he didn't want people to panic. Well, what do you expect the President of the United States to do? Run into the press room and scream into the microphone, everyone panic? Of course he was going to downplay it because he didn't want people to panic. That's kind of goes with the job, generally. Okay, let's read more of this. Earlier Wednesday, the Washington Post published audio of interviews journalist Bob Woodward conducted with President Trump for Woodward's forthcoming book, Rage. In February, the president described the virus as deadly stuff, despite publicly comparing it to the flu. A month later, Trump admitted to Woodward he preferred to play down the virus because I don't want to create a panic. Where's the scandal? Where is the scandal? Of course he didn't want to create a panic. Does everyone remember going into a grocery store in March or April and feeling like you were in Moscow because all the shelves were empty? Does everyone remember not being able to find a roll of toilet paper anywhere in the country? Or a steak? It's amazing. And the other thing to remember here is that this is Bob Woodward of the Washington Post, who, together with Carl Bernstein, were responsible for bringing down Richard Nixon with their famous series of reporting, which was eventually made into the book and film, All the President's Men. Well, I don't know if that was the name of the book, but that was definitely the name of the movie. They brought down Richard Nixon. And if you watch them on media reports today, like when Bob Woodward doesn't do as many media reports, but if you put on MSNBC, Carl Bernstein, or CNN, Carl Bernstein is on like a few times a week. And all Carl Bernstein wants to do is relive those glory days of bringing down a Republican president. That's all he wants to do. And Woodward, I think, to a certain degree, does as well. It's just that rather than doing it by appearing on CNN and MSNBC, he wrote this book, which we're all supposed to care about for some reason. I think one of the important points about this story is that it's a great reminder that Republican politicians, whether it's a president, a governor, a congressman, or woman, or senator, have to be very, very careful who they trust in media, because 99.9% of our media is out to get them. I'm not even exaggerating. 99.9% of the media is out to get Republicans. They want to bring them down. They want to catch them in lies. They want to prove them to be wrong. They want to showcase them as stupid and not knowing what they're doing. And even the most polished and professional seeming journalists, someone like Bob Woodward, who comes to you with a smile on his face, you have to assume, if you are a Republican, that they are holding a knife behind their back, because they're going to try to take you down, no matter how nicely they treat you during the interview. Think about this. When it comes to our media, I want you to think about the cable channels that exist: Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, and then think about the major networks: ABC, CBS, NBC, and then public funded outlets like PBS and NPR. So that's a pretty good sample of our media environment. Now I want you to think to yourself, name 2 people out of all of that who could be considered pro-Trump or even pretty fair to Trump. Offhand, I can think of 2 people who I would call pro-Trump. They're both at Fox News. One is Sean Hannity, the other is Laura Ingraham. Tucker Carlson I would call fair to Trump, because even Tucker has been pretty critical of President Trump at times. Although when Trump does a good job, Tucker will give him credit. He'll give credit where it's due. But Tucker has been very clear to call out Trump when he does something that Tucker thinks is the wrong thing. When Trump makes a decision or says something or does something that Tucker doesn't approve of, Tucker will tell you. He does not hold back. So there you have 2.5. 2 people who are pro-Trump and 1 person who is fair to Trump. Now, other than Fox News, now that we've covered, before we leave Fox News, let me also add that I can think of plenty of people at Fox News who are anti-Trump. Chris Wallace, Juan Williams, Neil Cavuto, Judge Napolitano. There's 4 right there, right off the top of my head. So even Fox News, which the left thinks is some sort of state-run pro-Trump channel, has voices that are for Trump, neutral to Trump, and anti-Trump, or against Trump. Clearly don't like Trump. Now think of all the other networks that I mentioned: CNN, MSNBC, the big networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, NPR. Name one person who's pro-Trump. Can you think of one? I can't. Can you think of one person who's like, I don't like Trump, but, I'll give him credit when, he does something that I think is right? Can you think of one? I can't. When I think of CNN, it's just like, they're beating a constant drum 24/7 that is just anti-Trump, 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 anti-Trump. Same thing with MSNBC. But even the big news networks, name one person. Name one person who you could say, oh, that person kind of likes Trump, I can tell. Or that person, I don't think they like Trump, but they'll give him a fair shot. It just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So this is something that Republicans need to be aware of in the media environment. They have to be very careful about who they speak to, and when they speak to a reporter or a journalist, they have to be very careful in choosing their words, because the press is out to get them. Just look at the way the media treats Biden. They treat him like a little kid. They set up the questions. When they question him, they set up the answer for him within the question. It's like watching a father and son playing t-ball. The ball goes on the tee so that, you just have to step up to it and hit it the right way. That's what it's like watching the media with Biden. They're just incapable of asking him a difficult question. Does everyone remember the 2012 election? There was this amazing moment, and I wish I could remember who the reporter was. It was a female journalist. There was this moment where these two journalists were chasing after Mitt Romney, who at the time was the Republican nominee. And it was a female journalist and a male journalist. And the female journalist screams at Mitt Romney, "What about your gaffes?" Can you imagine somebody saying that to Biden now? If you had to, on the gaffometer, if you had to compare Joe Biden and Mitt Romney, I know that a lot of people on the right are no longer fans of Mitt Romney, and I completely understand why. But if you had to compare the two on a sort of gaff meter, who do you think would be more inclined to commit gaffes? Wouldn't it be Joe Biden over Mitt Romney? But yet you have no reporters running after Joe Biden screaming, "What about your gaffes?" Yet we did get that with Mitt Romney in 2012. Which just highlights the point that I'm making about journalists and Republican politicians. Anyway, just to regroup, I think that Molly Hemingway of the Federalist is exactly right here. I think that we're going to see attacks on Trump almost daily. At least 2 or 3 major stories a week from now until the election. Because they've run out of real things to go after. They ran out of real things a long time ago. But they've gotten to the point where they're just they're just picking up stuff off the ground and throwing it. Because they've got nothing else. And they've got nothing else. So get ready, because this is going to be our media environment, our political media environment for the next 6 to 8 weeks. So enjoy, everyone, and remember, if you haven't already, hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Feel free to leave a comment, and I'll see you next time.